Gonna show you how to set up the AWS CLI and set up credentials so then you can access your AWS resources. I'm on the documentation page right now configuring the AWS CLI. And when people are first getting started and setting this up, it can be a little bit confusing because there's actually a lot of links here and kind of a lot of different ways to set up your CLI. So I'll just kind of show you the way I recommend to get yourself kind of going and kind of explain some of this just in case you need to debug. So here, if you click on configuration basics and scroll to the very bottom here, under configuration setting and preferences is actually important. So what the AWS CLI does is actually check a variety of different options in order to try to connect your AWS account. So that means you can also set up your AWS CLI credentials in a variety of different ways. And this is what it can be a little bit confusing. So a lot of people, they just end up using environmental variables because that's quick, easy, and then you're kind of set right there. I actually recommend using the .aws credentials file here, essentially step number 3. And the reason why I recommend doing that is because then you can use something called AWS profile, and I'll demonstrate this in this video, to switch between different users or even accounts very quickly and easily. And that's the way I would recommend it. You might be wondering why there's so many ways, because all the SDKs also can actually connect to, of course, AWS and do things to resources. So the SDKs actually follow this too. So whether or not you're using Java or Python or Ruby or PHP, basically the SDK follows a very similar precedence rule here, okay? And then also other things besides you can connect to AWS, such as like an instance profile. This is like an EC2 instance kind of. So there are different ways, and this container credentials as like ECS. Okay, so that's why this is a little more complicated, just because there's a lot of different services that can access AWS, and this basically precedence tries to take care of that. So I want to explain that and give some context there, because this can be a little confusing. People are like wondering why. Anyway, the way I'm going to do it is name profiles, and this is how you do it. It's under name profiles right here. And there's two files. Under your home folder .aws, there's a .aws folder there, and then there's a credentials file, and there's a config file. So it is exactly what it means. This is where you put your credentials, your secret information. This is where you put your config file. I do want to point out something that's a bit of a quirk, and that's easy to kind of mess up if you're setting this up for the first time. Notice default, that's basically when your AWS profile environment variable is not set. That's what it's going to use. That is consistent here and here. But let's say when you set like a user, like AWS profile for like user 1 here, then down here there's a profile here, okay? So they just made the parsing a little bit different there. So that's a little quirk. So just make sure you're kind of copying this to make sure for users you have a profile, but for default you did not, okay? Okay, so anyway, again, a lot of people, they actually don't manipulate this file directly. Though I think it's actually important to understand in case, let's say, one of these keys are old, and how do you update it? So by knowing this, you could actually debug and kind of fix things quite easily. Okay, but most people, what they do is, let's jump into it now, is just to run AWS configure. And before I run that, I'm going to go ls.aws. I'm in my home folder right now. It's just an empty folder. I just cleared it out. But even if I didn't have a folder there, it's going to create a folder once I run AWS configure, okay? So AWS configure is the command most people run. Then it asks you for AWS secret access key. So actually at this point, I got to create users. So let's actually create some users. So let's go create some users. Let's create the first user. I'm just going to add a user here called Bob, okay? And he wants to have access, programmable access. Attach existing policy. I'm going to do S3 read only. How about that? Okay? So Bob has read-only access to S3. Next, click review, click create user, and now this is the important information. It's giving us our access key as well as their secret access key. So I'm going to copy that, Bob's access key ID, and then paste that in there. Okay. And now I'm going to click show this and go ahead and paste that in there. Okay. And then now the default region, US West 2 is my region, but you want to specify your region and default output JSON. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing all this, so you can see actually how it works, okay? That file was just created, okay? Then there's the config, the region that I just specified in the output, okay? And also, credentials was also created with our secret information right there, okay? So now Bob has access, okay? Bob has access. If you go AWS S3 LS, he has read-only access, and you can see I just have a test bucket there. Now this is under default because if I echo AWS profile, guess what? Bob, it wasn't set, so just using default. When this environmental variable is not set, it's going to use default, okay? But when it's set, it uses a different user. So let's actually now create another user, then set it, and then switch between the two of them, okay? And then update that default to actually be Bob, okay? So I'll do all that. Let's actually go back to close this. and let's create additional user now. So create another user. Let's call him Kevin. Okay. So Kevin wants programmable access there. For permissions, let's give him S3 admin access, actually, full access right there. So he's got more access to do more stuff. Okay. Then click create review. Okay, and create user. Okay. So that would be good. Okay, so now we can go secret access key, copy that over. Now Kevin. Now this time, again, what I can do is I could export this profile and put Kevin here, right? And then that's actually gonna write it correctly. So that's how I'm gonna do it for this case right here, and then run AWS configure. Okay. And then paste his secret access key, and then his secret ID, and then key. Okay. The secret is always longer. Okay. Okay. Default region, use the same region here, and JSON. Okay. So now let's cat these files so we can kind of see what's going on. Credentials. Look at that. Kevin's right there. Okay. Now config. Watch. There's a profile in there. Okay. I'm just pointing this out. There's a profile here. Okay. This is not just Kevin's name. Okay. So echo AWS profile again. So right now I'm actually set as Kevin. So Kevin also has S3 access here. So you can actually write to the file too. But I'm gonna show you another kind of way to actually check who we're connected as, and basically you could go AWS STS for token service basically, and then get caller identity, and then you see who you're connected as there. Okay. So if I export this to I guess I can export the default, but I've unset this. Okay. So now basically if I echo, there's no variables. So that means I'm gonna use default. So now I do caller identity again, and guess what? This is talking as Bob now. Now this is where it's very useful to know how to edit this. Okay. So I want this not to be named default. Maybe not Tung, but Bob. Okay. Not me. Okay. But okay. And then config. Now let's go massage the config now. Okay. So we'll edit the config, and here is where it's I'm gonna put a space here. You can put spaces in there. You have to put profile. Okay. Bob. Okay. So then now export profile name Bob. AWS ST get caller identity. There you go. And he also has access to S3. Okay. He has read-only access. Kevin has write and read access. Okay. And that's pretty much it. The key is just, I'm going to cat these files one more time. Credentials here. Just to know that, look, you can have different profiles here, and you use an environment variable AWS profile to switch between the users very, very quickly, and even switch accounts very, very quickly. And you could do a lot of other things with the .aws credentials file too, like assume roles and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just kind of showing you how to get started here. So to finish up here, just for completeness, I'm going ahead and going to delete these users, and these secret keys will be useless. Okay. So okay, let's go and delete Kevin. Bye bye Kevin. Okay, and Bob is going bye bye next. Okay, so let's actually go checkbox Bob right there, and delete Bob by typing his name in, and now he's gone too. So both of them do not have access anymore. But that's pretty much it. That's how you set up your AWS CLI configuration and your credentials, and give a bit of explanation about why it can be a little bit complicated when you're first getting started. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Thanks.